For those of you that are early, let's just do the head and neck exercise so that we really open up our healing for our eyes, for our ears, for our soul. So we take the head down to the chest 3 times. So it's down to the chest and up. 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to go back and forward 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to go to the right 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Now to the left 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to drop our head to the chest and go to our right 3 times, all the way around. 1. Back up. 2. Back up. 3. Now to the left 3 times. 1. 2. 3. We're going to do affirmations, so what you want to do is just repeat each one that I do. It's going to be sung, but it should be in a key that's very easy for you to sing. My mind holds only what I think with God. My mind holds only what I think with God. My mind holds only what I think with God. My mind holds only what I think with God. Forgiveness brings happiness. Brings happiness. Forgiveness brings happiness. Forgiveness brings happiness. Forgiveness brings happiness. My mind holds only what I think with God. Forgiveness brings peace of mind. Forgiveness brings peace of mind. My mind holds only what I think with God. My mind holds only what I think with God. In quiet, I feel your peace. In quiet, I feel your presence. In quiet, I feel your presence. My mind holds only what I think with God. My mind holds only what I think with God. Forgiveness brings happiness. Forgiveness brings happiness. Forgiveness brings peace of mind. Forgiveness brings peace of mind. In quiet, I feel your presence. In quiet, I feel your presence. My mind holds only what
devoted come out in the bitter cold to do a meditation. You know, in the scripture, the statement made by the Master of Life. We're going to have a problem with the sound system tonight, so get used to it. Sound like I'm talking in an echo chamber. It's okay. The information is what's important. The Master of Life said about those people that were following John the Baptist. He said, what did you go out into the wilderness to see? A king dressed in fine raiment? A king living in beautiful, posh experience? It doesn't sound like that out there? I'm going to go sit out there. This is annoying. Hold on a second. So the Master of Life was making a statement to the people that were following John the Baptist, because they also, like most people, had an idea that coming into this divine awareness with God was all about increasing your financial situation and your material conditions in life. Well, this is getting really interesting. And so he was talking about the dedicated people that go out to the wilderness should be dedicated to the truth that he's imparting, because they wouldn't have to go any place to experience the treasures of that truth. And again, he will say things like, you are the light of the world. Let your light shine. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither does anyone light a lamp and put it under a bushel, but lights the lamp and puts it on a stand so everyone in the house can experience it. Let your light so shine that others may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven, which is a statement which is also in them, heaven in the midst of them. So as you look at the teachings of this Master of Life, you see in those teachings that mankind is born in an original era. So we're born and raised in a false definition of life. And that's referred to as living in darkness. So you see the juxtaposition between the light and the darkness. So often you see the Master of Life talking about himself being the light of the world and being within us, this light to dispel the darkness. That's what this whole spiritual journey is about, to live in light, or the enlightened awareness. On Sundays, these days especially, Norma and I are up around 5:30 or 6 o'clock in the morning so that we can get here and set up the altar if it's not set up and things like that. But I have to walk my dog in the pitch black on these roads outside my house, which are not paved. They're all dirt roads with ruts and crevices and rocks, and now there's ice in certain areas. So I have to use a flashlight. If I were to walk my dog out on those roads, that road, and didn't have a flashlight, I would stumble and fall, slip many, many, many times. It's only because I have a flashlight that I'm capable of discerning at least some of the terrain so that I don't fall or slip. And this is what the problem is in our false definition of life. You see, we have difficulties occur in our experience as we're going along. And we have so many things that we blame for that. As though life should be really smooth and very clear, an interesting, easy walkway for everybody. It's not, and the masters have told us as much, that it is not. That somehow or other we need to have the light in order to live effectively, beautifully, harmoniously, in a healing fashion. This is what the spiritual journey leads us to, not some distant heaven after we drop this body, but a state of consciousness in which we experience deep peace of mind, no matter what is taking place on the road of life. You see, if we have the light, we have this deep, deep understanding or wisdom that dispels the illusion of the false definition of life, that it should be what I want it to be, that there shouldn't be these pitfalls, these problems, these difficulties. And that is all just an illusionary concept, that it shouldn't be that. And someday it may turn out that it will bless me more. But that's not what's really the journey we're on. Let me share this with you from the Master White Eagle. You long for peace. You think of peace as being goodwill towards each other, goodwill among the nations, the laying down of arms. But peace is far more than this. It can only be understood and realized within your heart. It lies beneath all the turmoil and noise and clamor of the world, beneath feeling, beneath thought. It is found in the deep, deep silence and stillness of the soul. It is spirit. It is God. It lies beneath all the turmoil and noise and clamor of the world, beneath feeling, beneath thought. It is found in the deep, deep silence and stillness of the soul. It is spirit. It is God. So, there is a state of consciousness called enlightenment. It is a state of consciousness in which one has reached that place where his or her spiritual practice have led to a mystical goodness, a feeling good for no apparent reason. These are people that have learned to be still and meditate and allow and rest in this deep silence, this wonderful joy, peace. And having done that enough, they are now removed from the illusion that things should go a certain way, that their expectations should be met in these particular conditions, or the circumstances. They have risen in consciousness to a place where they can feel this joy, peace, strictly being one with the Creator and the creation, one with the Creator and the creation. If you're looking for something beyond that in the world, if you're looking for some type of financial remuneration or material well-being or something, those things have a better chance of coming to you if you're living a light-oriented consciousness. But that's not the goal. That's not the goal. Right now, what I've just said to you has put you in a precarious position, because you're going to walk out of here and you're going to be beguiled by all of the media in the Western culture. The media that, how many of you watched the Super Bowl last Sunday? You did. How much of that do you really want? I'll say this. No, I won't say that, because it's something that I'll get in trouble for. It's a lot of hype and glamour and glitz and money and all the stuff that goes in being victorious in a worldly sense. But if that is what you're seeking, you are going to have to live in the deluded concept of life from the ego-centered point of view that will ultimately only bring about suffering, frustration, and unhappiness. But if you want happiness, if you want to live effectively and beautifully, then meditating, being still, and learning how to carry that with you into the life you're living in the world, that's what the whole ideal is. That is what God consciousness is all about. Living in a state of peace, true consideration, not moved by this or that changing condition or circumstance at all. Because it is all part of the world, and the world will always be an insane condition based upon an illusionary concept of separation that doesn't exist. It's an illusion. We had a gal long time ago who was one of the founders of this Unity Church in Boulder. And she personally built a house of stone. Her name was Verna Stone. And when she was really up there in years, she decided, she had this little piece of property and it was out really on Canyon, that she was going to build a house of stone. Not a big house, she built a one-room house with a bathroom of stone on this little piece of property. And she was one of the people that came to the early meetings in this room in the bank where the founders of Unity in Boulder actually had their meetings. And I would visit her on occasion, and she would say what she had gained in all of the living that she had done. And she was already up in her late 70s and 80s. What she had learned in all of her living. And she said, let me put it to you this way, Jack. The world is an insane asylum. All the other planets send the people here who are nuts. And they live out these lives pretending to be intelligent human beings. But she said the only solace that I have found in life was being still and knowing the presence of God. So it came from years of experience, living the life, to see that the thinking of the world is insane. And it can't, for any lasting period of time, bring any peace or any true feelings of joy and love and understanding and insight. But all of us can attain to that. It's not that difficult to make spiritual practice part of your life and then see how well you're capable of carrying that peace into your lifestyle, so that you're not thrown every time something happens that is not in keeping with what you want to happen. Because it's going to happen. But then at some point, with enough practice, you're actually living above the battlefield of life. You're living above the insanity of the world. You have a peace that surpasses the understanding of people living in the insanity of the world. And this is what you're doing here, by the way. And there's no problem. If you want to watch a Super Bowl, it's not a big deal. If you want to, go out in life and do these things with your friends and stuff like that, there's nothing wrong with that. Just as long as in the process of doing it, you don't bring yourself into the illusion of strife, fearing, grabbing, wanting, hoping. It is better to be still, knowing. But here's A Course in Miracles speaking about salvation. This is salvation from A Course in Miracles. Salvation is for the mind, and it is attained through peace. This is the only thing that can be saved, and the only way to save it. Any response other than love arises from a confusion about the what and the how of salvation. And this is the only answer. Never lose sight of this, and never allow yourself to believe, even for an instant, that there is another answer. For you will surely place yourself among the poor who do not understand that they dwell in abundance and that salvation is come. Never lose sight of this, and never allow yourself to believe, even for an instant, that there is another answer. For you will surely place yourself among the poor who do not understand that they dwell in abundance and that salvation is come. So this is the enlightened path that we are on. It is a path of personal transformation. It is a path of letting go of the thinking of the world that causes us to strive and to have anxiety and to have frustration and to have vendettas. This is what the path of enlightenment is. To recognize when you are experiencing negative emotions. Do you believe there are people who are living entire lives and no longer live and respond to, or are thrown by negative emotions anymore? And the key is to be able to see when you're in a negative space. You have to stop. You have to pause. And you have to ask, what am I thinking right now? Is what I'm thinking really valid and necessary? whatever I'm thinking, is it something I'm fearing? Or something I'm missing? Nothing is missing to have joy and peace. And when you recognize that, when you look at it, you're already shining the light on a thief. Eckhart Tolle says that anytime you pause because you're going through a negative space, you are already on the path to enlightenment. Because you're shining the light on something that is robbing your peace of mind. And it is an illusion because you're divine. Your origin is divine. You can return to that divinity, that Christ within, that God consciousness. And in that, you will have a peace that fills you and lifts you, and you'll have a joy that is always there for you. And I guess that's why people still come to spiritual centers and churches to be reminded. Because the fact of the matter is, the media, in especially this culture, is so pervasive. It is in our face and in our ears and in our eyes almost continually. You can't hardly escape it. I know some people have given up television, but then they have the cell phone, and then they have the radio that they listen to in the car. And it's okay. I'm saying it's okay if you're on your journey and you're doing your practice, because it will not have the effect on you to bring you into a negative state of consciousness. So if you're doing your practice, do it and get to that place where you can catch negative emotions. They are the thieves of peace. When you catch them, you have to pause and say to yourself, what am I thinking right now? That's important. Examine that. You're shining the light on it. What am I doing here? Why am I feeling this? And then you can use an affirmation if you want to get out of it. You can use this affirmation, very powerful. So what? Just use that when you catch yourself and you want to get out of that negative, say, so what to it? And if you want to increase the power of that affirmation, you can say this, so effing what? And eventually, you'll free yourself from that particular negative experience. And when you start to do that enough, you won't have negative experiences that throw you down. There'll be fewer and fewer of them because you're looking right past them. And so when the news is on the radio, or the news is on the TV, or the news is happening somewhere, and all of this stuff is coming in, what is necessary to know is the most important service that you provide to the world is your own deep peace of mind. If enough people could sustain that deep peace of mind, you would in fact be putting an end to all the war and suffering in the world, because it is all but a reflection of the deluded thinking, the incessant deluded thinking of humanity is creating the outpicturing of that insanity in manifestation. To the degree that you can sustain the divine peace awareness, to that degree you are serving God in the most powerful way you can. So tonight, again, we will practice meditation. And it's one of the valuable pathways, the valuable practices that we do. And as we're doing this, if you have a particular meditation technique, when we get to the silence, use that meditation technique. But if you don't have a particular meditation technique, bring yourself into the awareness of the masters. This is where the masters live. Everything I look upon, everything I see, is only God waiting for me. Everything I look upon, everything I see, is only God awakening me. In this quiet, peaceful place, let us offer the names of those that have been submitted to our prayer list. If you know the person whose name is called, just envision them as completely healed. And if you don't know the person whose name is called, just see the name surrounded in light.
Ruth Muller, Bob Holmes, Cheryl Lawitzer, Allie Valley, Denise McCarthy, Ann Carlos, Sandy Spahn, Melinda Violet, Sheila Luna, Jeannie Russell, Barbara Kieran, Brandy Hutchinson, the family of Peggy Kirkpatrick, Sandy, Barry Basuhu, Dennis Drake, Del Bigtree and family, Gail Wagner, Steve Taylor, Dan James, Sandra, Ben, Sarah, Callie, Samantha, Kaylin, Crystal, Michaela and family, Jenny and family, Melinda N., Thomas Velva, Chris Brothers and mother, Terry, Edie, Sean, Aaron, James, Brell and family, and mother, Carrie Witowski, Ivan and his mother, Annie. Australia, we see rain engulfing the areas that need the rain. United States government, the air, the water, earth, all life. Sharon Lippy. You can call out a name if you would like to at this time.
Matthew, S. Casey, S. Daniel.
We see this healing light surrounding the prayer box and all the people whose names that had been submitted throughout the month. We see them healed, physically, mentally, and spiritually.
Let us envision this divine awareness, this deep peace and light consciousness, moving into the consciousness of everyone sharing this Boulder community with us. And it continuing out into the consciousness of everyone in the state of Colorado. And this divine light consciousness moving in the hearts and minds of everyone sharing these United States with us. And every person on the North American continent being inspired toward this God consciousness, and it moving to all the people on every continent of the world, bringing the divine light awareness, the love and joy of the miracle of being alive in the minute of our existence. And we see this affecting all the creatures on the planet, to bring them into that positive place of love, healing, and happiness. And all of the vegetation on this planet being healed, raised into its pristine majesty of life. All the waterways, all the rivers and oceans, the lakes, the ponds, the streams, all of them being purified in the awareness of this divine presence, creating the new heaven and the new earth. And we hold them in the light as we pray. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. And God is love. To this we say, Amen. We will take an offering for unity now. As we take our offerings in our hands, let's bless them with this offering statement. Divine love is my true life and my conscious destiny. Therefore, I give. Together, please. Divine love is my true life and my conscious destiny. Therefore, I give.
Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I feel your heartbeat. Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I feel your heartbeat. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey yo. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey yo. Father, I see you where eagles fly. Spirit's gonna take me higher. Father, I see you where eagles fly. Spirit's gonna take me higher. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya.